Welcome, Sober on Purpose family. I have a very special guest today. Um, she she really caught my eye with her Instagram page, and I'm going to let her tell you the phrase that really caught me. But this is Amanda Lockyer. She is in Australia, so doing this at very different times, late in the evening for me, or evening for me, and early morning for her. And she used to be a corporate accountant, but has totally changed that lifestyle. So, Amanda, can you share with us a little bit more about what brought you into this world of recovery?
And thank you so much for having me. I am a former corporate accountant. I am originally, some people might be able to discern, I'm from New Zealand and I currently live in Australia. So I did the whole university accounting finance thing. That was my dream. And I went and did all of that corporate work in London and Australia and did all the spreadsheets and met a lovely person, lovely man, and we got together. We did the kids and the marriage and all the things, and discovered that there was just some problems, some troubles, and later found out, there was some struggles with alcohol and other things. So, in search for help for myself, eventually, after many, many years of not getting help for myself and not even knowing that's what I needed, I found it short and lacking. And I just could not find anything that was helping me or felt aligned. When I did find some help, it didn't feel good and it didn't feel accessible. I had two very young children at the time and was the primary parent. And, I couldn't go out at 7 p.m. at night and I worked during the day. So it was hard. And so eventually stumbled through a lot of tools and some counseling and some groups and a bit of this and a bit of that. And then eventually thought, you know what, this is just not okay. And people need better stuff at their fingertips and they need better support that aligns to people and what they actually want to do and what they need. And so I set about learning as much as I could and doing any training that was available. And then I put together my own program and my own support system for people. Yeah.
So, in looking at that, you realized there was an issue. Take us back to you've married or I don't know if you've married, you've got a partnership with a lovely human being and you think everything's okay. When did you decide you needed to get some help for yourself? Was there an incident or
No, sadly not. I think the situation is such a slow decline and it's just a sliding scale of crazy and awful and devastation. And it did not occur to me for years that actually I needed help for myself. I was so laser focused on my husband. I was so laser focused on what can I do? What can we do to help him, that I really had not taken stock of my own situation, my own well-being, how I was showing up, and how this had really all impacted me. And I had completely, and even when I did start to get some help and try and get help for myself, I completely underestimated how much this had actually impacted me. So there wasn't any great incident. It was, and this is irony at its best, I actually called a helpline to try. I was just desperate, and lots of people here, we find ourselves in desperate situations. It is crisis, trying to get support for my husband. And things were not great. And I was just, what can I do? And so I called a helpline and I said, hey, this is what's going on. What's possible? What could I help him? How can I help him?
right?
And they pointed me in a direction and I said, great, thank you very much. And the lovely person on the end of the helpline said, hey, do you want some support for you? And my actual
Really? That's
first
great.
thought was, that my first thought, like no joke, that ran through my mind was, I don't need help here. I'm
Mhm.
fine. I'm not the one with the problem in
Mhm.
inverted commas. I don't need any help. But literally the thought that ran through my mind, which is, you will not be surprised and you will see this too. I thought, great, I will go along to this support session, whatever it was, so I can get the answers so I can help my husband.
Absolutely.
They're going to give me, I don't care about myself. They're going to give me some answers and great, I will do it. And so even going along to my first step to get support for myself was 100% the back agenda was to help my husband more.
Absolutely. That was my first experience too when I figured out that this was more than I could handle. I went and it was June 3rd, 2003. Went to an Al-Anon meeting. He got him dropped off at the AA meeting, went to an Al-Anon meeting and went, okay, 12 steps, 12 months. We got it. Gonna handle this. We were due to get married in September. Got it, got it, got it. It's not really about me. It's about him. I just need to know enough about this to be able to live with him. Right.
Mm.
And he said, okay, I'm going to get sober and I'm going to handle all this. I'm 20 years in now. And I'm still learning. And I am still, I imagine you are experiencing people that you help too, who I had a client reach out for some help in her local area. And basically they laughed at her that
Oh.
this was not an issue and they couldn't do
Ah,
anything for her. And I'm thinking, wow, are we really still at that stage? Really, really still at that stage. So you have a statement about helping yourself. Can you share that statement with us and how you came about that?
yeah, absolutely. So I have said that you will achieve more in 1 year focusing on your own well-being than 5 years focused on your loved ones' recovery and sobriety. And how many of us have sat there for years and years just laser focused on our loved one, being completely consumed, and we could even say here, addicted. We are
Mhm.
addicted to them, their well-being, what they're doing, what they're not doing. We follow their every move. It's just dawn till dusk and beyond, all the
Mhm.
nighttime thoughts of what have they been doing? What are they doing? What are they up to? What could they be doing? What could they be doing less of? What could they be doing more of? And where has it got you?
That it's almost like we're living, I put it this way, that we're living their life for them and we've forgotten that we have a life.
Yeah,
That we've forgotten to show up at the dentist or the doctor or do the things we like or, you know, go out with girlfriends or whatever we need to do. We've forgotten that
absolutely.
we exist.
And you've become so disconnected and so out of tune with your own life. And like you just said, meeting basic needs, going to a dentist checkup, and the story we tell ourselves here is, if we love them a bit harder, if we completely focus on them a bit more, if we care more about them and focus entirely on them, they will get better. Things will get better. If I just, and this is the story I told myself, if I if we just get them to a better spot, our lives will be better.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the sad reality is, and I know this is hard to hear and it is probably confronting because I found this confronting when I realized it doesn't work that way. Ask yourself a question. Is this serving you? How is this serving you? And has life got better? Like, how long do you do something until you realize this isn't actually changing? Things
Right.
are not actually getting better. And this could be a great moment to have a truth and honesty talk with yourself. Like, do you feel good? How many years have you been doing this? And just sit down with yourself and ask yourself that question. How many years? Because I would bet my next coffee on this. It is years. How many years have you been doing it? Do you feel good? You know, with focusing on someone else, is your life better? Are things better? Have things got better? And I would say probably not.
Right. Have you even forgotten what your life was?
Mm.
That's what I came to. That's what some of the folks that I work with come to. And I imagine with you is, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, Amanda, somewhere, especially if you have kids, somewhere around the 5-6 year mark, you begin to look and you say, this isn't changing. And I'm doing all this work. Like you said, you're calling the hotlines. You're doing this. I was showing up at Al-Anon. He quit. You know, I'm
Yeah.
showing up at Al-Anon. I'm doing the work. I'm doing these things. But I want to go back to what you said earlier about being addicted to the person.
Mm.
Can you talk more about that?
I mean, we are, right?
I totally
We
agree. I liken
are
it to
consumed.
drinking. I want
Yeah,
to
we are.
drink
Yeah,
them.
you are. And if you felt courageous enough here listening to just track your thoughts over an hour, not even a day, let's start with an hour. How often do you think of them? And if we can just do a short circuit and just ask ourselves, how is this serving us? Right? And is life getting better? Is what you're doing helping? Because I like to speak about our behaviors as, you know, healthy, unhealthy, helpful, unhelpful. Like, is what you're doing healthy? Is it helpful? And people might be saying, but Amanda, if I don't track them on GPS, if I don't search in the garage and all the hidey spots, if I don't harass them morning, noon, and night, how will they know it's an issue? How will I know what they're doing? How can I? And I hear you, but is that actually helping? Is there a better way? Could we do better here? And you and your behavior and what you do, and if you focus on yourself for a year, and it's not to say that you don't care, you don't love, you don't want better, you're not here for change, you're not here for support 100%. It is okay? It is you love them and you love yourself. It's like, how can we do it at the same time? Because when you are addicted to your loved one and all they're doing dawn till dusk, you are abandoning yourself.
Yes,
You know, you
absolutely.
are abandoning yourself. And I ask people, what do you want? If I asked you, what is your favorite dinner, or what's your best holiday? I've got preferences. I'm allowed to have preferences. You know, like I don't even know what I like anymore. I don't even know what I stand for anymore because I've been so consumed and addicted here with someone else's entire state of being. And so if we think here about you can achieve more in 1 year focusing on yourself, to put down the magnifying lens. Just put it down and pick up the mirror. And it's hard and it's confronting because I am sure that out of best intentions and out of love and care and wanting the best, you are behaving in some wild and weird and cray ways.
Absolutely.
And it
Absolutely.
all makes sense, okay? We're not here to throw stones. There's no shame because that all makes sense because this is a crazy making situation. And a lot of people are here and they've never been here before.
Yes.
So just all the crazy that we're doing, the GPS tracking, the sniffing the laundry, the trapping people in lies, all the things make sense because this is a crazy making situation. And all that stuff is not helping.
And it seems so out of control that any monicum of control, anytime you can grab control, you're going to grab for it. And that's calling friends, that saying, hey, we're no longer going to hang out with those folks, or like I used to do, wait up to see if he actually got home because I wanted to be the first one to call the police if, we couldn't find him or if this was happening. This was the father. I was so panicked. He had a ski accident, a pretty reasonably serious ski accident, but I was so panicked about all the drugs that I started yelling at the doctor in the middle of all of this when I had no idea what was going on, but I needed to control what substances were going on in his body because I probably was one of the only ones that knew there were a lot of other substances
Yeah.
in his body. So you're kind of at this. You talked about there's no shame here, of course, but this situation puts you in a place often of shame and hiding. Now, do you experience that with the people you serve and with yourself? How does that look for you?
100%. And, this is something, a few things here. So, like the year of focusing on yourself, you can actually lead the way for change. And if we can focus, and I say a year is like obviously an idea, but then you will continue, but you can lead the way for change in your better life, like my better life and the better life for my children and the better life for my lovely clients. Their better life started when they started focusing on themselves.
Yes.
When they got in the driver's seat of their life, when they stopped putting the keys to their future happiness in the pocket of someone else. And like you spoke about control, you are in the driver's seat. And it's not you or them, it's you and, right? It is and together, and you can lead the way. And there's so much shame and stigma here. And one thing that pops to mind when we're talking about this is enabling. And is it helpful? Is it helpful to then throw more stones at families and spouses that are trying their best here? And for many of us, we have not been here. There is no rule book. There's no GPS. It's no follow these steps and you will get a lovely life and just do the things and it's fine. It's
right.
So hard. And with the shame, a lot of us are in isolation. So we're trying to navigate this crazy, really devastating situation behind closed doors. And
we've self-isolated.
Yeah.
We've self-isolated. I know in my case, I was afraid to tell my parents. I was afraid to tell my church. I was afraid to tell anybody because I didn't really understand. So I love that you put the key metaphor in there because we've self-isolated. We've locked ourselves up, which means here's the opportunity that we can unlock. We 100%. Can unlock ourselves. Yeah.
When you've got the key, if you put the key in your pocket, right? If you have got the key, you can unlock the door.
Absolutely.
And then we can put another key metaphor. You can put the key in the ignition in the driver's seat, right? And set your car in a different direction. And we isolate. I too did not tell my parents for many years, and I'm all about honesty and being authentic. I only told them because I felt I had no choice because my lovely person was going to rehab and I couldn't feasibly pretend that they would, how could I justify them being not here for that amount of time? That was the only reason I was a truth teller in that moment, because I couldn't uphold the lie,
Yes.
And I'm not fundamentally a dishonest person, but we lie here, which again, how does that feel? We are lying. Not only our loved ones are lying, and that makes sense because of shame, we lie too. We are lying to ourselves, to our family and friends, to our community. We're lying to our loved one. Like, they might ask us, did you hide my keys? No. Did you do this? No. And you did. And it's for good. We're trying to do the good thing, but we lie. And if honesty and integrity is important to you, this is going to feel so gross and you're going to feel so bad.
And you said it earlier, disconnected. You feel so the self-abandoning has to start because you have to disconnect from you said it. I have these set of values and morals, but to live in this situation, I have to set some of those aside. And to all of my audience and people that will listen to this, we get it. We did it.
Mm,
We did it for
yeah.
what we thought were the best intentions. And I wasn't ready to undo it, and no amount of I'm still showing up at Al-Anon. I mean, they know, but they're the only ones that know. And the reason I told my parents was, well, in the state of Colorado, you could begin to bring pot plants home. And so, there were going to be things around that I couldn't explain without
Mm,
sharing it with them. And wasn't working at the time. I wanted the backup plan if I needed it. I would have had to explain at some point, and I wanted them to be aware ahead of time so that if we all have that emergency call and said, look, I need help,
yeah.
that somebody was there, and all of that, like you said, all of that feels icky. It feels crazy. It feels
So,
like this is not the person who I am.
and that's when we abandon ourselves. And this is the year focused on yourself. This is tuning back in. What feels right? And if this is going to be incredibly uncomfortable, and it's going to not feel safe because, and what you spoke about before, the control here, when really it's more the illusion of control. Right.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we grip onto it like hot death, like if I can just try and control this one thing, then life feels manageable. It's going to feel hard to let some of that stuff go, but honestly, it is just so freeing. And on the other side of all of this stuff, this hard stuff, to turn the corner, you do have peace.
That is the amazing, because I've watched that happen for both clients, people I've been in program with, all of that craziness can be going on. But when they come back to themselves and they stop abandoning themselves, they're able to make clearer decisions that they can live with 10 years from now, 20
Yeah.
years from now, rather than all of this hiding. What has been when women come to you, where normally are they in this chain of situations?
They're usually in the thick of it, and it's starting to think, I need some support for me. So usually, sometimes their loved ones are in recovery or talking about recovery, or kind of in those early, maybe we could do that. And sometimes not at all. So, definitely a mixed bag, but they're starting to realize, I need some help. I'm on my knees here. I don't know what to do. I am just desperate for something that is going to help.
And these, I would imagine, based on what I know about you, corporate accounting, all of that type of stuff, I have a graduate degree, all those things. These are highly intelligent people. These are people that can manage their lives. And suddenly they're in this situation that feels so overwhelming. And like both you and I have experienced, there's not a lot of clear support for. How do you say to them, okay, there really is help? How do you get them to believe you that
I know.
they know they're in craziness, but nobody else has believed them so far?
And I think here we are, and I know that, we're up to the challenge. We are fighting an uphill battle because the messages out there sometimes in this world, it can be loud, and they can be quite disempowering to spouses and family members, and those narratives of, if people want help, they'll get help, they'll change when they're ready, they've got to hit rock bottom, and you're powerless, and it's like some of those things are just such nuanced statements that are taken completely out of context and they're just yelled from the rooftops. And so people are walking around thinking without the context. And it's just, it's so frustrating. And like you have just said, and it's exactly right, a lot of the people I work with are, everyone I work with is lovely, switched on, smart, capable. They're mothers, they're CEOs, they run companies, they've got their own businesses, they're executives, they're teachers, I've got some clients that work in social work, psychiatrists. Like, you think this is the shitty, sorry, swear word. This is the bad story you tell yourself that I am smart.
Mm-hmm.
So I should be able to work this out. And that is what is stopping you from getting help, because you are a smart person. You run a company, you have been to university, you've got a mate, you're a very switched on human. You've got children, you run a house, you've got great friends, you're in community. So you think, well, I should be able to navigate this, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's the story we tell ourselves. So that's what keeps us stuck from reaching out for help. And then eventually, and this is such a slow declining, slow burn situation, it just goes months and years until you actually do something about it. And if I could give, and I've said this many times when I've spoken to people, my only regret is that I did not get support for myself sooner, because my life and the life of my family could have been so much better earlier.
Yes.
And I don't regret anything else. That is my only regret.
Yes, I hear you loud and clear. The other piece of the shame, which I think is so interesting, is because we are smart, talented, capable women, and we are able to do all of this. We go back to the beginning and we're like, how did I get myself into this? Why did I make these choices? So we start shaming ourselves even before we began to look at what the situation really looks like. Whereas if somebody came and looked, if a person aware of the situation came and looked from the outside, they would look and say, you started shaming yourself so long ago. It's no wonder you can't get out from underneath this big pile and ask for help.
Yeah.
And the reality of it is that then when you do ask for help, you have to look at it more head on and make some decisions. And I think that's where we all run.
And what you just said there, we go back and say, I am a switched on, capable, lovely person. How did I get here? So then we completely invalidate our capacity and doubt our capacity to make any decision. So if I made a decision, or if I chose this path over here and this has not gone well, can I even make good decisions? And this is the devastation here. Like, I spoke to a lovely lady who's joined the program recently, and she just said, Amanda, I'm a 45-year-old woman, and she is in a beautiful career that supports women in a different area. She has got 5 children, and she's like, I can't even decide what to have for breakfast. And this is when we just don't know what to do.
Yes.
And we doubt our capacity and our ability to make decisions on a big scale, but then that filters down to, what do I have for breakfast? And it's looking at your life, and I would suggest going on a limb, you have put it on hold. You're not planning holidays, and you're not planning the summer, and you're not planning catching up with friends for dinner or a breakfast, because you just don't know what life is going to look like, and you don't know what the right thing to do here is. So just making basic decisions day to day feels so hard.
Overwhelming. And it trickles into the children too. We know that they are uncomfortable when emotions are all over the place and they don't know what to expect. They begin to learn to cope with that. It's often the house where they can't have friends over because they don't know who's going to be acting out and who's going to be doing what.
Mm.
I looked more crazy than my husband is very even keel. I looked a heck of a lot more crazy than he did. It was what is mom going to do because she got triggered. I needed as much help as he did in
Mm.
a different way, but as much help as he did. But
Yeah.
the shame of all of that and letting that out
Yeah.
was just
And then, yeah.
overwhelming.
And in a safe place. And what you just said there, the kids and the children, that gets me up, could almost cry because I have behaved in ways that I am not proud of,
Mm.
and this really impacted how I showed up as a mother. And like you said, dysregulated, triggered. And I am not proud of it, behaving like we spoke about before. What is your moral compass? What are your core values? And yelling at my 4-year-old for doing normal 4-year-old stuff is not
Mhm.
something I am proud of, and this is where I kind of get a bit firm, even though I am warm and kind. If you are the parent who is not addicted to a substance or a behavior, you are the safe parent,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
it is up to you. And I know that sounds like a big burden, but your kids deserve that, and you deserve it. You deserve the best version of you, and so do your children. And they
Absolutely.
need that safe harbor. They need you to be the safe place. Like my children know I am here
Mhm.
100%. And maybe I was a bit off the chart a number of years ago with how I was reacting to situations, and I was just on my knees, and that makes sense. But it was up to me to
Right.
make changes in my life, to be that safe harbor for my children, to be the stable parent, to be the one they can rely on. And I hope they know this always. They can always come to me. I will always be here.
Yes.
And it's
And we had so I don't in our country we had the Betty Ford Center, and she started many years ago with a recovery center, but she also put in a children's um, program that is stunning, and it talks about how their job is to be a child and the parent
yeah,
is to be a parent, and that if they need to find safe people, talks to them about how to do safe people. So we had the opportunity to do that prior to my husband getting sober, and with him after he got sober. So that was I can't even tell you about the marvelous releasing opportunity, because they also talked about all the things that I was doing because I was so ashamed of what was going on and trying to make this perfect model. So this goes back to what the thread we've been threading through all the way through of not abandoning yourself. Because as my first sponsor used to say, is half a loaf is better than no loaf. So if you have
mm,
half a loaf of bread, which is you, the parent who can regulate, versus no loaf where both parents are dysregulated. Certainly we have been there. We have been all over the place. Some really scary stories. And I look at my boys. My boys are older than yours. They're 17 and 19, and I look at them and I think, we did the best we could with what we had, but it was reaching out for that help
mm,
that
yeah,
they're both, one has graduated, one will graduate. They're both going to be productive members. We'll still wait and see how their relationships form out. Everybody's
yeah,
sober.
mm,
That is only because people came alongside of us. I could not have done that by myself. My
yeah,
husband couldn't have done that by himself. It, I don't even yes, you've got this huge bubble, like those big bubbles, you've got this huge bubble of shame around you. If you can just step in somewhere, that will begin to break off. How
yeah,
have you
absolutely.
seen that begin to break off of women?
I so much of what you said there, I speak about, the shame we have spoken about through here. Society does not generally make it okay in this space to put your hand up and say, either I am struggling with something or my loved one is, because we've still got that lens of addiction through their moral failing rather than whatever else you want to think about it. Like it's still seen as a morality issue. So like you were saying, the bubble of shame, like in any other, when a family faces crisis in any other way, you immediately get the village. You immediately get people, they wrap their proverbial support arms around you.
Right.
And we are here. What do you need? We've
What
got
casserole
you.
do you need? Can we do a
Casserole.
meal
Oh my
for
gosh.
you?
That was my first thought years and years ago. Where is my lasagna? And I did a podcast on that myself. And that was my first blog post I never published. Where is my lasagna? There is no casserole. There's no meatloaf on your door. And so as a society, it's not safe to put your hand up here. So it makes sense. But we need to find people. We need to find our people. So you need to find your people, and they are there, I promise. And it's finding safe people that have got you, because you cannot do this alone. And just look at the evidence. Look at however long you've been doing this. If you're listening, however many years you've been trying to navigate it alone, has it worked?
Right.
Okay,
Absolutely.
let's try something different. And it's not about putting a post on Facebook or an announcement on your mum's group thread for the soccer team. It's having little conversations one at a time and testing the waters with people and just saying, yeah, I've just got some hard stuff going on, and see where it goes. Right. And yes, not everyone is going to be able to hear the story. Not everyone is going to be able to support you in the way in which you need. That's okay. But there are people out there that can support you in a good way. And just taking those brave steps, building your community of lovely people around you that aren't judging, that aren't shaming, that aren't telling you just kick them out, just leave, just this, just that. Like there's no just about any of this, can I just say? Right?
Absolutely.
So that's not helpful here. But just surrounding yourself with people that are actually going to help you, support you in the way in which you need is invaluable.
Absolutely.
And those people are out there. And it's up to us to step forward in that courage. And this is going to take some vulnerability. So it's not going to be easy, but it is worth it. If you can kind of peel back a bit of the layer, take the mask off for a hot minute of everything's okay, pretending, and just have a bit of a real conversation with someone that you think might get it, you could really be rewarded there.
Absolutely. Which brings us nicely, Amanda, into what do? You said enough is enough. I need to design not only things for myself, but for other people. So share with us where we can find you, what you do.
Yeah. So I support women that have been impacted. I mean, I say I support women. I would love to support anybody, but it's just who is drawn to me. So I support spouses and families of loved ones that have been impacted by, an addiction, get back to living their life and giving them the tools and strategies to do that in a way that's helpful. So I mainly hang out on Instagram at Addiction Makes 3. My website is the same, and I have a podcast as well. So I am based in Australia, but my coaching program is international. So I support women across the world, and we have a great community. So yeah, come and find me on Instagram. We can hang out.
Awesome. Her Instagram page is just gorgeous, and it offers a lot of insight. And then you run a group too. So if you just want to get your toe in, tell us a little bit more about your group.
Yeah, so I have a group program, and that's a really safe place just to come and be in the room with other lovely people who are navigating, a tricky thing here that it's hard to speak about outside. So you will see yourself in the faces of other people here in this space. So come along. I know it's hard. Send me a DM, and we can talk about what makes sense.
Awesome. The other plug I want to give is we're both Invitation to Change certified, which means person positive language. If you have listened to how Amanda has spoken about everybody, they're lovely people, they're beautiful people. Don't worry that you're going to walk in and there's going to be sometimes what we find on Facebook, and you just did a post about this, a lot of
Yes.
ugliness. And
Yeah.
this is still the father of my children. We are
Mm.
still married. I don't want to talk ugliness about him. We had a
No.
real rough time, years of a rough time. But ugliness is not where I want to go. So that
No.
person positive language is what you can expect to find from Amanda. She's modeled it beautifully this whole time. So please be aware that there are places like that, that you don't have to be ugly. And
Yeah.
the skills will be how to treat people with dignity. And that, I think that changes the whole scope of the recovery process. But Amanda, thank you so much for getting up really early to be here. I wish you and the
you.
boys best today for all your matches today.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
hopefully we can have you back to have another I'd love to have the conversation around the Facebook groups too.
Yeah. Yes, that is a whole conversation for sure. Yeah, I would love to talk about that.